do you want to be in this box? Like, if you do, then I support your decisions. But like, I just wonder how many people, like, the whole, like, your career, your marriage, your kids, your friends, your community, whatever, like, did you actually choose this? Like, do you really like these people? Do you like yourself? I just think there are a lot of questions people aren't asking.
Welcome to another episode of Threads of Enlightenment. As usual, it is my honor to welcome our guests. They're coming with a couple of things very expensive in my eyes. First, time. 24 hours has been offered to every one of us. What we do with that 24 hours, I keep telling people, you will expose your sins, as they say. The other is a journey. The journey is a powerful creator. It has created the individual that is before us. Padmini is before us, and I am excited about this. I've been looking at our video for all our videos, our YouTube channels, everything. And so I'm excited about this conversation. And in order for her to allow us access to some of the things that we need access to, she must become vulnerable, and we want to create a space by which she is safe. Thank you so much for coming to Threads of Enlightenment.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
It is an honor to have you here. I usually throw this question to people to start this wonderful conversation of ours. Gives you an opportunity to introduce yourself to the audience, and also to tell them, this question. And my question is based on the latter part of your assignment, which is your servanthood. How do you serve men?
It's probably going to keep changing. I think this assignment keeps unfolding. I don't think I know the whole, like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I don't know the whole story. I think right now, as each and every one of us raises our vibration, we raise the vibration of those around us, and people who know us and people who don't know us, and people who have known us for a long time and people who meet us for the first time, people who will probably never meet me but have seen my videos, or people who can probably even just feel my energy. And, whether it's in big or small interactions, I think when you really embody, maybe not 24/7, but, as your baseline vibration rises and you get closer to God, I think I don't entirely understand the physics around it, but I feel like, people can feel energy, because God knows I can feel people's energy.
Yeah.
So, I think that is how you raise the consciousness of the collective. And, some people are probably going to raise it more than others, and some people will have a larger reach than others. And, for those of us who have the assignment, that is the assignment.
I think there's a degree of that is called discernment. And usually discernment is formed through hardship. And when one goes through some difficult times, you begin to fine tune that. And also it has to do with your deeper relationship with God as you become deeper entangled with Him and His ways, and knowing who He is and how He operates. Your discernment, as you're able to discern those that present before you. Jesus calls us the light of the world. And He tells everyone, you're the light of the world. And science is now proving that when the egg and the sperm meet, there's a bright light that takes place. And they said that they believe is the entrance of one's soul and the spirit of the man. So Jesus says, we are the light of the world. So we have that discernment skills, but it's honed through pain and suffering,
Yeah.
as they say.
No, it definitely is. I don't think I was entirely aware. I was partially aware, but no, I think it really, yeah, it was after taking more than a couple L's
Yeah, a
that,
couple of hits, as they say. Well, introduce yourself to the folks.
Okay. My name is Padmini Pandya, and I am the creator of the YouTube channel Pieces of Miss Minnie. It's where I'm basically sharing the lessons of my life, one memory at a time. I have a pretty eclectic multinational background. I've lived in a number of cities. I've, been married, divorced, experienced death, lived in 4 countries, moved around a lot as a child. I'm 4th generation East African Indian, born in London, predominantly raised in the States. I worked in Asia for about a decade, and it's been a wild ride, to say the least. And I didn't know what to do with all the stories that I had collected. Like, nobody's life, fortunately or unfortunately, I didn't know anybody whose life had been as adventurous as mine. And people encouraged me to write, but it's just not something that comes particularly naturally to me, not the way speaking does. And I really like technology and content. I think it is fascinating to watch, good, bad, and ugly. But I think as a format of storytelling, and sharing memories and really like letting people see you and feel you and hear you. You know, there's so much that's actually lost in the written word that you can't get unless, you know, there's something at least capturing the voice and the person physically, particularly when it's your own personal stories. And yeah, and it turned into something, you know, I started fairly quietly and it started to build and I got more confident with it. And I'm taking it in a few directions, but it's been quite the journey for me personally. And I can't imagine what it's like for people to watch who have known me in prior incarnations because I have changed a lot.
Let's go back to some of this. And one of my customs here at Threads of Enlightenment is to go back to the beginning of our beginnings, if you will. The family unit. We're there for about 16, 18 years. And then we began to move forward on that linear line that they have set us, the programmers have set for us, college and all these different things, and corporate America, married wife, husband with a white picket fence, 2.5 kids, and all that kind of stuff, and so forth. But the first location that we hang out is that family. We're going to learn our behaviors. Mental limitations are here, traumas, all of these wonderful things, our communication skills develop, all of this wonderful cauldron of that we call the family that is there, emotionalism and everything. What was your family unit like? You mentioned a little about the ethnicity of it, but what was the nuances of it?
Yeah, I mean, actually, I think that was actually quite pertinent because, like I said, I was born in London. My parents actually moved to the States first in 84, I want to say. And my brother and I stayed behind in London because they were restarting their lives. My mom was already a physician when, despite, you know, having gone to one of the best med schools in the world, she had to redo her residency. She was already an attending. And so really my parents had to start off from scratch again. And so, you know, because I'm an East Indian family and, you know, the grandchildren are kind of raised in a herd to a certain extent. My grandmother was like, no, you know, your children are staying with us. You go sort it out in America and your children are mine
Yeah,
until
same thing with
you know, until
ours.
you're ready. And yeah, I think that happens in a lot of immigrant families. It's not so much, you know, white families are different in that respect. They're very like nuclear. So actually, my parents moved to the States and then my brother and I joined them around, I want to say 87, 88. So, you know, the family unit, even as a nuclear level, you know, wasn't really, I was still very, you know, my grandmother was to a large extent my second mother. I had, you
Hmm.
know, a lot of aunts who were involved. I was pretty close to my cousins. And so, you know, when we became a nuclear family, I was already like in the first grade, second grade. So like to a certain extent, it was weird because my parents had not been there for like some pretty critical, you know, years growing up. So
Yeah,
we kind of had to reform that family unit in the 80s in Phoenix. Luckily, you know, Phoenix was a really nice place. And actually, you know, my parents were quite young even when they were in their 30s. Like they had a ton of energy and, you know,
yeah,
America was new for all of us. So that was nice. But yeah, it kind of never really was, it wasn't a normal family from the beginning because,
yeah.
you know, you're raised by several members of the family.
There's a degree of independence that one gets in that type of atmosphere because my parents did the same. They left, and we were there with my grandmom, but we had cousins and everybody else was living in there with their parents doing similar things, and so we had a degree of independence, if you will. So by the time we got to our parents, we were pretty much independent, you know, and we had to learn a few things as well. So I understand that aspect of one's life as a multicultural family member, you know, that you have as you're moving forward. You're now heading into college or not. And, you know, this is our first independent, not really independent because we have some people backing us in the back, if you will, but it is that we are now going to be ushered out from quote unquote under the umbrella of mom and dad, um, seeking our independence. When you were there making that decision, what field of study did you pick and why?
I didn't, you know, the first couple of years were kind of general. I went to Boston University for my undergrad, but I picked communications and actually it worked out really well. BU had the number one comm school in the country, you
What
know, so they had a big,
let me interrupt there. What was the driving force that pushed you towards communication versus business, whatever else?
I mean, I
What
tried
was it?
starting business. I just didn't have that kind of focus. And frankly, I wasn't that passionate about accounting and finance. And like, that wasn't stuff that was going to, excite me. I think communications have always come naturally to me. And so really, it was actually really fortuitous that of all the universities I could have ended up at, I ended up at BU. And so even, I started in the business school sort of, by my junior year and like made my way into the comms school. And that just came, um, it just came way more naturally. I didn't have to, it wasn't that hard after that. Like,
Yeah.
not that I got great grades. Like, my GPA like still sucked. Like, I like graduated barely on a technicality. Like, there's nothing to brag about.
So
But that being said,
here you graduated on your technicality, as you said, and you're standing there with this paper in your hand. And of course, the next stage, if you will, is that corporate America. Where did you end up?
well, it wasn't. Not for me. It actually wasn't at all. I have 4 degrees. So
Okay.
my 20s went to, my parents are still moving around a bit, but when we came to Florida and settled down here, I went to fashion school. I went to art school, studied fashion design for 2 years. And then I started a PhD in industrial and organizational psychology, which I then ended up finishing with the master's because it turns out I do not want to be a researcher. Like, obviously, I don't know what I was thinking, but like everyone in my parents are both doctors, and I just thought like, whatever. Like, I didn't want to go to med school, but I was like, I like a PhD in like some fancy business psychology sounds good. And then it turned out to be like 5 years of like heavy stats. And I was like, no, this is going to be, I was in my late 20s. I had a ton of energy. Like, I wanted to be
Yeah.
part of the world. I was like, I don't want to sit in the lab doing stats and like linear regressions and like meta analysis. Like, I don't care about the p value. Like, we have better things to do with our time. And so thankfully, like I finished with the master's, and then I actually in my 20s did 2 startups, one and a half really. But at that time I was married, and basically, it really all came to a head at the same time as it usually does. And basically I left, and that's when I left for Asia. And then I moved to Bangkok in my early 30s. It was there for about 2 years. So I think when I really started like entered the workforce, I was actually in my early 30s at that time. And I was in Bangkok, which is not like corporate America. It's like the opposite of corporate America. So I was there for about 2 years and then moved to
In what
Singapore.
capacity were you there in Bangkok?
So I had first gone basically to consult for a family conglomerate that was moving from the second to the third generation of leadership. And then I joined a digital agency and I ran the performance media trading desk for Southeast Asia. So that was like Bangkok, Indonesia, Vietnam, all the usual suspects.
Yeah.
And Bangkok wasn't exactly somewhere I wanted to stay. It would that was never going to work out long term. And then when I went to Singapore, I'd say that's when I really jumped into like kind of more like real corporate. And I worked for Publicis Sapient, which was Sapient Nitro at the time. And I ran corporate strategy for Asia, which was started as an M&A job and then turned into post-merger integration, and then I jumped into 2 other big tech companies from there. So it was quite fortuitous that I was in Asia during those years because the exposure and the experience you can get as opposed to like, when you're in America are 10 people doing the job that one person in Asia does. So it's sort of like the exposure and the experience, though very challenging. And now you're dealing, with up to 8 countries and different markets and this and that. It's like really quite a way to like actually really learn how companies operate, how regions operate, how countries operate. And you just get way more experience than you would have gotten in America in a much shorter amount of time.
How did all of that moving around Asia and dealing with all the different changing cultures, the people, languages, all of that, how did that impact you as an individual? What was this 20-something, 30-something-year-old individual? How was she functioning?
I mean, I think as confusing as I might be in America, I am way more confusing in Asia. And that was the irony is I thought, whatever, I'm Indian, like we're closer. Like, feel like they're more like I didn't think expats in Asia are predominantly white. They are white men and they are married or unmarried. And, they come with a trailing spouse and some kids. And, it's the usual formula, give or take. And so, just being Indian, but not, say you take Singapore. They're basically two types of Indians there. They're either Singaporean Indians who are, quite a few generations in, and they're mainly South Indian, or you have the Indian expats who are basically from India, go to, fairly good schools, and a lot of them are more North Indian and they have their own kind of like society and like cliques and stuff. And so it was actually very rare. It was actually not, there were single professional women there, but like to certainly by your 30s, it starts to thin out. And then I think, they weren't used to an Indian American who had the education that I had. I got an MBA. I went to INSEAD, did my MBA there while I was in Asia. And it was like, they just didn't know what to make of me because I
Yeah.
wasn't married. I wasn't a trailing spouse. I was unchaperoned by like their stunt stand. And then it was like, obviously, like I have a different, I have a personality, like I have a voice, I have a presence. Like when I speak, people listen.
Yeah.
I wasn't subtle or meek, even as much as I think like I tried. I think I just stuck out like a sore thumb, whether I wanted to or not. And so actually, I think coming back to America has been much easier for me. Like it was actually being in Asia that like no one knew what to do with me. And then there were different, race relations which were you know, overly complicated and historical and colonial and really have nothing to do with me. But it doesn't, I had thrown in the middle of everything. So like, no, it was even like, yeah, it was like the Americans, the British, the Australians, they were easier to deal with. They knew what to make of me, but it was sort of like everybody else, like everybody was confused. And that was just exhausting for me because
Yeah.
I could tell it was like there was so much like cognitive dissonance based on like all their stereotypes and like biases and preconceived notions. And now that was my problem. And it was like, I don't like get out more. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, read history. There are but it's like they have like very narrow minded, conceptions of what you're supposed to be. And when you don't fit into that box, like you disrupt the
Yeah, you
system.
just have that mold. I currently live in Thailand, so I'm familiar with
Hmm.
that mold that they have.
Yes. Where are you?
I live on the island of Koh Samui.
Nice place. Nice spot. Good choice. Good choice. How long have you
Yes,
been there?
probably about 2.5, 3 years now.
Nice. There's a
A
fabulous resort spa, like rejuvenation.
bunch of them,
Kamalaya?
yeah. Not too far from my house.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I
it's a
spent
great
a week
space.
there. Yeah,
Yeah,
amazing.
I love it. So here you are, man. This woman that's eclectic to the Asian world, if you will, and yet is we would use the terminology a Renaissance man, one who's world,
Renaissance woman.
yeah,
Woman. There
Renaissance
are
woman.
plenty of Renaissance women in the world too.
Yeah, and this woman has traveled all over and just such powerful stuff, standing an enigma, if you will, to a great deal of people. You know,
Welcome to the story
culturally,
of my life.
as a woman, educated woman, Indian, all of it. This enigma just standing in front of all of us. When you were there in Asia and now you're heading back in to quote unquote the Americas, how did you land? How did you begin to function? Because it's easier now. It's not as crazy as it is over there. You're not
Um,
competing on all
no,
these
the thing
different things.
is, it wasn't easier. Not by any means. It was, I mean, okay, in one respect, like, no, I'm not a foreigner, but like America had changed a lot in that
Yeah.
decade. I didn't even know how accustomed to Asia I had become until I came back. I
Yeah.
did not I didn't know. And it's not like I hadn't been back for, a long time, but like it was different coming back for a Christmas vacation and, you're in and out in a week or 10 days or something. And I'm basically seeing my parents and catching up with a couple of friends and dying from jet lag. And then I'm out
Hmm.
again. No, really coming back, it was easier and harder. Like people are much friendlier here. people are a lot less pretentious, a lot less like insecure, much funnier, just like less restricted. Like in Asia, you couldn't even swear. Everyone acted like you committed a crime if you like,
Yeah.
yeah, they were like, so here
Especially
at
a
least I
woman.
can, yeah, in Indian and it was like, I think there was also, a lot of like resentment as well because I was American and I'm British and American. And it was sort of like, it was almost like people felt like, how dare she, or like, what right
Yeah.
does she have? There was a lot of resentment and jealousy that was sort of like turned into passive aggressiveness or just
Aggressive behavior.
aggressiveness
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Or just like too much attitude. Like, I don't deserve
Yeah.
that. But so in one respect, that was much easier. Like, I could, everyone was cool and that was fine. But South Florida, I was more familiar with. Unfortunately, I decided kind of impulsively to do a startup and to move to LA and to sort of like reinvent my life pretty soon after coming back here. And so that was really tough because I didn't realize how different California and LA, and I had spent a lot of time in Orange County while I was married, like in the 2000s. Like my
Hmm.
ex-husband, used to live there. So I had been in Orange County quite a bit, but LA and America, and I just don't understand that culture in particular. And that was not my city. That was not my vibe. Those are not my people. And so it was then coming back to Florida, I think then I had a completely new perspective and appreciation for just how like straightforward people are, how easy they are to talk to, how reliable they are, how consistent, how, it's like in LA, it's just everyone's like trying to be cool and plays a lot of games. And like here, everyone's like, yeah, you want to meet up? Let's meet up. And then you do. It's like
Yeah.
everyone in LA just like wants to be cool, and it's a very insecure city.
Yeah. So when you came back, and because I want to know, what prompted you to start your YouTube channel? How did that synchronize? Here's this busy woman. She's traveling coast to coast, as they say, entrepreneur, starting our business. I lived in Florida. I'm familiar with South Florida and all the different places, going out there, partying and doing my thing when I was back in the day. So how did this Renaissance woman that is now back in the States and she is going to put together a YouTube channel? How did
No,
that come
that is
together?
this is yeah. It was God's idea. This was not my idea. I
Yeah.
had no
Okay.
intention of doing this. This was not the plan at
Yeah.
all. I thought I'd take some time, figure it out, get back to work. I had already been quite fast. It started off me actually thinking it was going to be more TikTok. I did
Hmm.
not originally think it was going to be YouTube. But what really happened was it was about a year ago. And I was staying at a friend's place in Miami, and he had gone out and I had his apartment to myself. And I remember I was sitting on the balcony, like having some wine, listening to my music, like scrolling through TikTok, vibing. But there was like a psychotic lightning storm. And even by Miami standards, like
Yeah.
it was too much. But there was just lightning everywhere and thunder. And thankfully, and it was pouring. It was theatrical, and it really just sort of like the whole thing just downloaded. And I just like sort of I just saw it and like understood it and sat. And it was like that evening, I was just sitting on the balcony with like lightning all around me. And the whole thing just sort of came to mind. And so then but I still sat with it for a number of months after it. This was like
Hmm.
probably this time last year. I didn't do anything until October because I was still going through an enormous amount of spiritual warfare and really, reeling from another. I also dated an Italian for a year and we had just broken. Like, I was really like figuring it out. Like, we were really restarting. That was like, all right, like let's reboot. And so, I really still sat with it for a couple months and thought about it. And it has evolved from my first, and the stuff I want to do in the future that I'm thinking about is a bit different as well. And I have a couple things I'm playing with, but that was really where it literally just like came into me. And even the name, like basically it was just like the whole thing just downloaded. And
Wow.
I was like, but I really had to sit with it for a while because I was like, this is a one-way street, and I really had to like, you know, talk to all the gods. I have a lot Hindu. I don't just work with Hindu gods though. I work with a number of different like entities and like gods and goddesses, but like and angels. But I had to have a word with a lot of them. And really, and there was enormous amount of spiritual warfare. And I think that actually also was part of the end of it. It still, went on for a number of months after. But like, yeah, I mean, I'm an Aquarius. Like this was going to go one or two ways.
So here you are. It's a beautiful picture. I mean, I could see it sitting in Miami, and I've been there, and I've seen some of the storms. But there you are in the midst of this, sitting down and all of this storm and all this thing, and you have your storm happening within your life as well, and just a big storm happening. And within that, you are getting this download as to this new creation in your life, this new path, if you will. And most of us do the same thing. We will take it and we will sit with it for a while because we want to know this is absolutely crazy. Why would I want to be bothered? That kind of
Yeah.
thing. And you just
Yes.
need to figure it out and deal with it as you digest it. You're meditating on what it does and what it meant. When you began to give birth to that, what did it look like?
It looked like a cell phone and a stick and bad lighting, but it was liberating. It was actually just interesting. It was like I had this new thing that I was sort of like playing with now, and it was interesting. You can never really see yourself objectively, right? And that is basically watching yourself on video is about as objective as you
Mm-hmm.
can be about seeing yourself. And, the funny stuff, there was also stuff, like the third episode, the eighth episode, those were both like really tough episodes. But they gave me an enormous amount of healing and closure. And I just did not account for how much it would change me and how that I think was the biggest result of all of this was that I thought, yeah, people probably won't know what to make of it. We're going to be experimenting for a while and I'm just going to have to live with that. But like, I didn't realize how much it would affect me and how much like evolution I would go through as a result of this.
Yeah, serving always is about helping us. It's a selfish thing, isn't
It, it was a good benefit, but like, I didn't see
it?
it coming.
I remember when I had that same thought, to start a podcast, and I was like, there's no way for years, actually, it was with me. And my brother, my younger brother, showed up at my house with his equipment, and he said, "You're going to do the podcast." I didn't have anything. He brought a mic, everything, and he said, "We're going to do this." And actually, my granddaughter just sent me a video that she took, and I'm cussing her out for taking this video of the very first time I did podcasts
When was
ever.
that?
Geez, this was several years ago in Orlando. My brother showed up. I'm sitting and he's like, "We're gonna do this." I pronounced the name wrong and the whole 9 yards. I'm just nervous. And my granddaughter just sent this to me a few days ago, and I'm looking and seeing me nervous and trying to figure out what the heck am I doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it changes you because I started it with my book, 12 chapters, and I was like, I'm going to be good after my first podcast with my brother. Now, after I finished with the 12 chapters, the 10 chapters, and my podcast blew up. And the next stage was for me to get in front of the camera and all that stuff. And I would not do it. I shut my podcast down.
What?
Yeah, because
What?
I had to walk through that. There is this part of me that didn't want to do this because I know that when I step out,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
needed
No,
to
I mean, I
become
say that,
vulnerable.
I'm like, why? And I'm like, I know why.
Yeah, I need to become vulnerable, and I knew from that point on that I had to be vulnerable and always be vulnerable every day from that day on, in
Just
front of
honest.
everyone and being
Just like
honest like
really
that.
honest.
Yeah,
Like
and I
you,
knew
like
that.
you,
Yeah. And there were parts of me that I didn't want to share that, you're trying to hold on. When I stepped out and began to share it, I got my healing that I needed. But yeah, I know the process. The process is it's difficult, but there's healing there. There's change. There's a maturity that happens there. As you saw yourself mature and you are
like last year.
recognized. Yeah, it happens. And you've gone through your 8 episodes that gave you your healing. You're watching all of this stuff in you. And you're watching this woman metamorphose before your eye. Talk to me about that. How did she manage? How was she doing? How was it helping? I know it was healing, but what did that look like, the healing?
It's so incremental. It's so subtle
Always. Yes.
that day to day, you don't notice the difference. But it's like, say, take me now, as opposed to when I started this in October. I'm a lot more comfortable in my own
Mm-hmm.
skin. My energy is a lot better. I can see it, maybe not in what it looks like internally, but how it reflects in the 3D. And in the 3D, which catches up later, it's always like lagging, right? It's
Yeah.
never
Yep.
in synchronized. So where you are 5D and in other dimensions is always ahead. So it's sort of like there's a lot of dissonance because it's like your life isn't really reflecting how you feel internally.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like that started to catch up. Granted, like I was in hermit mode for like a year. So even while I was shooting some of the videos, I wasn't super so now I am actually quite social, and really, really fascinating, amazing people are popping up and coming into my life. And it is happening like very easily.
Easily. Yeah.
There's a lot of synchronicities. There's just like
Yes.
a lot of comfort. There's just like a natural energy, particularly in like the men and women, but like particularly in the women that I've been meeting. I think I have felt, women like me are an oddity. And so it's a very lonely experience. But now I'm meeting a lot more women who also just sort of march to the beat of a different drummer. And now we're all finding each other. So it's like, it's not lonely anymore. Like, yeah, we're not like in the mom crowd. It's women between their 30s and 50s now. And, that's been amazing. And so it's like when you actually see these people and these friendships and and just even like now kind of business wise and the
Mm-hmm.
projects and, I needed my people, I needed my tribe, and they've been coming in. And now even stuff I hadn't thought of before, stuff I didn't even know I liked or was interested in are now front and center, and projects I had never crossed my mind are now being presented. And I'm like, well, like, you know,
Yep.
life got like it catches up. So I think
Yes.
I think maybe when it's like you start to see those things and you're like, the healing looks like, where was I 6 months ago? Where was I a year ago? But looking at it like, where was I yesterday or a week ago? You can't tell.
Obedience is the key to be surrender, if you will. Once you surrender to the assignment that has been offered to you, and when you begin to walk that avenue, if you will, the synchronicity happens because I think it's already planned out. It was just waiting on you and I to surrender to it, to
Yeah.
allow the opportunity for all of these changes to happen. The assignment that we get will always change because we are constantly growing. And as we grow and get deeper, wider, more experienced, these things come into our space because it's something we have to do. And we will know those things. And there's always that unrest, that thumping that when there's movement coming or expansion, if you will, it's a preparation, I think. It allows our nervous system kind of picks up some things within some of those vibrations that are within the spiritual realm, the energetic aspect of it. It will manifest within, that part of our being. And when we get into meditation and so forth, then some clarity sometimes begin to happen. But the people come all over and they'll help you to accomplish that. So pay attention to your nervous system. It could be a good guide. If it's out of alignment, you will know.
I don't know if it's ever entirely in alignment. I'm like, let's not make it binary. Let's just say like graded on a scale, like maybe on a curve.
Yeah, on the curve. I remember when mine was all over the place, and I've learned and again, through meditation, I've learned and different other modalities to give myself that space to relax and allow the changes and pay attention to those things, guys. It really is. The body is one of your first tools. It's a tool that you have that will make you aware of the coming things, and that regulation within that nervous system is key right there. So let me ask you this question, because again, I know with mine, when I stepped out, I had people coming. I don't even hunt people anymore. I mean, they come to me I can't even tell you where I have people coming from. Sometimes it's amazing. And it's time. When it's time, it's time. You have a mic. You've been this different species, if you will, or different individual all your life as to outside of the box. And I tell people they keep us normal, control us by that terminology, normal, and they contain us in that terminology. And you have been outside of that normal container for most of your life. You have a mic, and your mic is connected to 8 billion of us, a little more than that. What would be your advice to us as
Oh
this
my
woman
God.
that has been
No pressure.
outside? Not at all.
I just wonder if people, a lot of people, like if they really like, did they choose their life or did it just sort of happen? Not even expected. It's just like, do you want to be in this box? Like, if you do, then I support your decisions.
Yeah.
But like, I just wonder how many people, like, the whole like your career, your marriage, your kids, your friends, your community, whatever, like, did you actually choose this? Like, do you really like these people? Do you like yourself? I just think there are a lot of questions people aren't asking. And maybe that's not very tight, succinct advice by any means. But I'm just like, are you sure you want this? Like, I don't know. I'm like, it doesn't look cool.
I love your answer though. It's a perfect answer because a lot of people do not ask those questions.
That's the weirdest thing. I'm like, isn't that the first question you would? I mean, I get it. I get it. Like sometimes, you get into just even the things that people covet, the things that people want, like how low vibrational, that they're
Yes.
so driven by like how somebody looks or like they want more money and they're already wealthy and they want more money and then they're still
Yeah.
in a competition and it's like they still want to be more powerful and especially among men, it's like it's pathetic, the
Yeah.
hierarchy that everyone like, they all know how to get in line immediately. Like, I don't know why men are called leaders. Like, they're all followers. Like, they get behind whoever's got the most money. Like, and they all fall into line based on like their net worth or their job or whatever. Like, men are the most like, just like they don't think about anything. Like, it seems so remedial. I'm like, you're really just mode like, you have decades on earth
Yeah.
and this is what motivates you is like making your mediocre friends jealous about like how hot your girlfriend or your wife is or like this job that you hate because like you get to drive a Porsche and live in a nice neighborhood. Like that seems like so anticlimactic. Like it just seems
Boring.
like so, I'm just like, you're worth more than that.
Yeah,
You're
it's
worth,
boring.
even in the equivalent, the girls who like, just want to be sort of
Yeah.
spoiled with gifts and handbags. And I'm like, you're worth so much more than a handbag. Like,
Yeah.
have higher standards and goals for yourself. Like, this is such a cheap way to live.
It's a cheap way to be on this planet. They have no value. They haven't seen the true value of themselves. And I tell you, you guys are now today, they're getting familiar with the other grouping of men. You had your alpha and your beta, and the alpha, those boys are chasing all the crazy stuff, and he has to puff his chest, and the beta, of course, is a follower. But us signal men, we are the
And
badass
Sigma
on this
women.
planet.
Exactly. I think like everyone's been thinking about it binary. And I'm like, you have
Yeah,
to pay attention to the Sigmas. The
we
Sigmas
are, we
are
are the
know what's up.
badasses.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're the badasses because we have done the deep work. We are not moved by materialistic things. We are moved by that which is inward. We're not driven by none of those things that you had talked about. All these people, to me, it's kind of sad because if that's all you have,
You don't have.
whoa, you don't have nothing. Because when that's taken away from you, you still don't have you.
It's like half their marriages fall apart anyway. Half
Yeah,
their kids become strangers. The people they hang out
yeah,
with are atrocious and probably
yeah,
hoping they fail secretly. And I'm just like, wow, like what was it all for? Like
yeah.
what, like a nicer car, like more jewelry, like more bragging rights. Like you're lonely.
Yeah, that's all. And a Sigma would see right through that and know that we look at them and we'll know exactly where they're at. And because we are pretty much more introspective grouping of people, we are deeper people. We are serious. We are more about the self. We seek validation from the internal aspect. We do not seek validation from external. And that's a
Yeah.
painful lesson that we have to learn because we are empathetic and so forth as a result. And it allows us and it opens us to narcissistic relationships that teach us some of the most wonderful
I'd
things
write
that
a book about narcissists. Like, oh, especially like just like right, like and crazy ones.
Yeah.
Like,
So yeah.
I am like, I'm not even going to say that out loud.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and close that sentence right there. You know
Yeah.
what?
So
I'm not going to finish that thought.
I know where you're at because we are a different breed. We're empath, and they can see us. Um, thing about an empath and a sigma, you can only go so far. I'm going to leave it there.
Yeah, no,
I
good
want to
way to put
thank
it.
you. Want to thank you so much. This has been a really good conversation. It's fun. I had fun. I want
Me
to say
too.
that, number one. And thank you so much for coming to Threads of Enlightenment. I love your answer to that question as to what would you say to us. It's a powerful, powerful answer. Those of you, we are going to provide all of her links so you can get access to her, find out, learn about, watch her YouTube, and you'll learn about segments. And she is, as she mentioned on the onset, she's going to take it different ways. Allow yourself to be expanded. Learn from her. She has some powerful women that are coming, having conversation with them, digging into the deep aspects of the feminine part. And a lot of you young girls, you'll need to follow her, get in touch, become a subscriber, and stay with her and learn. Become one of those that have unplugged from becoming and being called normal. It is not good. Thank you so much for coming.
No, thank you very much. This was lovely.
Thank you.